Alrighty, let's talk about Book of Boba Fett, but the fan edit. The fan edit. Okay, so what happened is when the Kenobi series came out, yeah, look, we all know, blah, blah, blah. But there was a guy called Kai Patterson who did a fan edit of the eight of the series, took it down into movie length, and everyone loved it. But at the same time, there was a guy called Pentex who did the same thing. He took the movie length, he took the series length, and he edited it down into a movie. Now, some of the things are similar between them and some of them are a little bit different. So if you can watch them both, that's fine. So they put out, what else do you want me to do? And a lot of the people said, can you do the Book of Boba Fett? So they actually worked together on this. And link to this video below that talks about what they did. So what they did was one of them did what they call part one, Book of Boba Fett, and the other one did what they call part two. Part one is Without a Tribe, where you see Boba coming up out of the Sarlacc pit. Now they do use some footage from Return of the Jedi, and they tell the story from way back then. And it's all about Boba. It's all about Boba and getting rescued, Sand People, the whole thing. Then it's once he's got his armor, the second part. Now they also use footage from the Mandalorian series in various places to make the story fit. And what it does as a whole is it removes the wimpiness of Boba. It still makes him out to be a tough mofo who doesn't take a lot of shit, but his attitude in his life has changed a little bit, but he's still not just full-on wimpy and nothing. And you see that arc happen. Now, in part one, Without a Tribe, that's where all the flashbacks of the Sand People thing happen. And my initial thought was this is just going to be boring as hell. But I found that it wasn't really that boring, even if there wasn't a lot of talking involved. And I dreaded part two because I knew that's where the mods would come in with their rainbow bikes and everything. Now, kudos. Kai Patterson did part one and Pentex did part two, and he turned all the mod bikes grey to fit in with the decor and everything of the town at the time. He didn't make them look so stupid, so he made them look more capable as things to do with Boba and what he was about. He removed all the scenes of Boba continually begging for meetings with the mayor and basically looking like a dickhead. And it just all fit. And there's a nice little Easter egg, and I'm going to drop a spoiler in it. So in the series, we see Cobb gets gut shot and his deputy gets chest shot 3 or 4 times. Cobb gets gut shot once. The deputy gets chest shot 3 or 4 times, and people run out to Cobb in the street, and that's where it cuts. And there's always that question, did he actually die? Well, they've done some really clever editing in part 2, and someone says something to Boba like, maybe you should go back to the Bacta tank or whatever, just regenerate. And he says, nah, it's in use. And you're left thinking, like, who is it in use by? Which character is it in use by? Well, there's kind of like an Easter egg at the end. Now, the Easter egg at the end is you flash to the Bacta tank, and Cobb is in the Bacta tank, and the guy that saved Fennec, that was working in that mod warehouse or workshop or whatever, where Boba brought Fennec to him and said, save her, and he replaced all of her guts. He is also there at the Bacta tank, and he fires up his torch. In other words, he is ready to save Cobb as well. So they fit all that in. So they made it more watchable. Now, I've got to tell you, there's 2 files in this. One of them is 10 gig and the other one is like 9 gig. It's like 2.5 hours or so for part 1, and part 2 is like 2 hours and 16 minutes or something. So it's a long watch. Now, I wouldn't say you should binge watch it. I certainly did it. I think I took 2 or 3 days, maybe even 4 days, 2 days to watch part 1 and 2 days to watch part 2. So I did it in bits and pieces. And I found myself not actually that bored and enjoying the story far more. It made a good story progression of Boba falling into the Sarlacc pit, coming out of the Sarlacc pit, and how he progressed and his character arc slightly changed. He's still a badass, but it didn't make him out to be wimpy. His character arc slightly changed until the end. And it was far more enjoyable as a story to follow, no flashbacks. And I don't know why Disney just didn't do this. But it's taken 2 editors, independent editors, to come up with this. So link to the video down below that talks about it from one of the editors. And within that, he has a link to where you can go to download both parts, part 1 and part 2. I say, even if you watched the original Boba and you didn't like it that much, give this a chance, because I enjoyed this far more than the original series that Lucasfilm put out, and it seemed to follow and it made better storytelling, in my opinion. So give it a chance. If you've seen it though, if you've already seen their edit, their 2-part edit, let me know what you think about it in the comments below.